Hey YouTubers, it's that time of year again. Black Friday is just around the corner. So in this video I want to take a look at what are the best value components if you're looking to basically build a PC from scratch. That's going to include case, CPU, memory, RAM, power supply, the whole shebang. Or if you're just looking to upgrade your existing components to make your machine run that a little bit quicker or that a little bit better. So without further ado, let's dive right in and take a look. So first up, the first thing you got to think about is your case. Okay, so the first thing we've got to really decide is, do you want something that is going to be a little bit more understated or a bit more practical, or do you want something really flashy that you're going to show off to your mates, which is, look at me. So I've kind of picked one case from either side of the camp there. So first of all, on the left hand side, that lovely black and orange case there is the BeQuiet Dark Base 700. Now this is a very high quality case, manufactured or made in Germany, and they have put a lot of thought into this case for one, decent airflow, two, obviously looks, and but one of the main features is kind of in the name BeQuiet of the manufacturer, is that they've done a lot of noise dampening with this case. Now this case is going to retail around about for $155 at the moment. So Black Friday you might get it 20-30 quid cheaper. So if you want a little bit more kind of understated look, then that's the case I would recommend. Now if you're looking for something a bit more flashy looking and still with good thermal properties with airflow, we've got the Lian case here on the right. Now this is the 011 or 011 Dynmaic. Now it retails for around about £115 at the moment. Again, you might get that sub £100 come Black Friday if you have a shop around. Now this case itself doesn't come with any fans, so what you've got to factor in is that's going to be an additional cost. That said, you've got the glass front and side and top panels, so it's a beautiful case to show off, and there's no screws. It's all kind of held together by that top panel. Now this case, or both of them, are really good for fitting radiators if you want to water cool, but the Lian case on the right there is specifically designed for water cooling more than anything else, so that's a consideration. So for me, it's a hard one to choose. I think I would personally take the slightly more understated look and better acoustics. That said, when you fully light up the Lian case on the right hand side, that thing looks beautiful, and what I'll try and do is I'll try and put some video of each case in the background during this video. Okay, next up we have the CPU. Right, that again pretty much boils down to two choices. Do you want the machine for best possible gaming performance, or do you want a all-round machine that does a bit of everything? So starting off looking at the gaming performance machine, then really there is only one recommendation I'd really make, and that would be the i9 9900K if you want the absolute best performance. I wouldn't bother with the new KS variant. Yes, it's a little bit quicker, but it has nearly £100 extra premium price tag on it. And for me, you don't really get that much in the way of gains in terms of frame rate, so I would stick with the standard K model. Now the standard K model, at this point in time, you're looking at around about £450, so maybe in the Black Friday sale you might see that down to 400 or 380 hopefully. For the more balanced machine, And then I would highly recommend the Ryzen 3700X. That is a fantastic chip for gaming. You will get really good frame rates with that chip. Obviously not quite as high as the i9, but on the other hand, if you're a content creator, or if you're doing kind of multitasking or using apps that use lots of cores, then the 3700 will blow away the i9 completely. Also bear in mind that the 3700X is about 298 to 300 pounds at the moment. So it's considerably cheaper, you know, it's 50% cheaper than the good old i9 there. Now potentially we could see that dropping down to about 250 come Black Friday. So that for me, of the two chips, would be my recommendation, for price and for performance and just an all-round chip. But again, it just depends on your what you're looking to do. Okay, now moving on to the next component, your motherboard. This is probably, again, one of the very important components for a good system. The first thing I will say, buying a bargain basement cheap motherboard, you might as well not bother buying high-end chip, or you know, something like the i9 or even the Ryzen chip, because it's going to perform like crap. Let's be honest, you pay cheap money, you get cheap results, you know. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. So with that in mind, you know, I'm going to make recommendations for a board for each, for the Intel and the AMD platform, which is going to kind of be mid-tier. It's not going to be the cheapest by any means, and it's not going to be the best either. So for the AMD platform, for the motherboard, done a lot of research into this, and the Asrock TaiChi, or as I like to call it, or as the Americans call it, the TaiChi, which is the X570 base board, that is around about £275. That's a board I would recommend. It's got excellent VRM support for overclocking, and basically it's pretty much got most of the bells and whistles of the high-end board and just a lot of the crap that you don't need, and it's a rock stable board, so I would recommend that for the AMD side. Hopefully we'll see that around about 250 mark come Black Friday. Now if you've gone down the Intel route with the i9, then you're going to pretty much want the Z390 chipset boards, and again they're the mid-tier. Again, I can only really say that, you know, for price and performance and all the features, another good board is the Aorus Z390 Ultra, which is going to retail about $235 at the moment. Again, this might drop sub 200 come Black Friday. If that's not available, there's no good deals on it, look for Asrock Z390 TaiChi or TaiChi board, ultimate board, which is currently about 279, so we might see that down about 250. You know, they're the options I would go for after doing a fair bit of research. I'm not saying they're the best, but I think they represent kind of the best value for performance versus bang for buck. Okay, so let's move on to memory. Memory manufacturers, a lot of them are much for muchness. So what it comes down to is how much memory do you need, and you know, how fast the memory, how fast you want it. So to save a bit of cost, I would say stick with 16 gig unless you have a very specific need for any more. Most things will run very nicely on 16 gig. You can always add more later on. Now, in terms of those chips, you make sure you get two 8 gigs, not a single 16 gig, because that will alter your performance quite a bit. Now, again, this will come down to what you want in terms of, you know, the looks of your machine. For around about £60, you can get DDR for 3000 without the RGB lighting. If you want RGB lighting, most of the manufacturers out there are doing 16 gig kits for around about £90. So you're literally paying a £30 or $30 premium just to have those lights. So again, it depends if you're doing a case to show off, or are you doing a case for like kind of function and form rather than anything else. Now, in terms of speeds, a lot of people get very tempted by, you know, going, oh, I'll go for 3600 or 4000 megahertz memory. What you got to remember here is there's a point where you get diminishing returns the faster you go. You're going to pay a lot more for that 3600 or 4000 plus megahertz memory, and for that a lot of extra cash, and you, in some cases over double the price of the 3000 stuff, you're going to get limited returns. You're not going to get double the performance. So my recommendation is stick to around the 3000 or the 3200 megahertz memory. That's fine for everything. I would say try not to go lower than that. That's kind of the sweet spot. You know, and don't waste your money on the higher speed stuff, because you know it's just really not worth it unless you've got a very, very specific need for that super fast memory. Now on to the graphics card. Now this is a fun one and often a bone of contention, because you'll always have fanboys in each camp, like for AMD or for Intel. So right off the bat, I just want to say that this recommendation for a graphics card is based on, you know, performance and you know, the value proposition that it gives. So for me, the kind of best value you know, card on the market with really good performance has to be an AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT. In particular, I've done a fair bit of research on this in terms of general all-over performance, acoustics, you know, thermals, overclockability. I would recommend the Gigabyte card. You know, that's just generally one of the best cards out there at the moment. Yes, you can pay more for like say Red Devils, but you know, again, it's like a diminishing return. You're not going to get that much more for quite a bit more cash. So why do I recommend this card? Well, at the moment, you can pick the Asrock, sorry, the Gigabyte card up for around about £380. There are some slightly cheaper reference models, but I would recommend you stay away from those, the single fan ones, because obviously you can't overclock them, and they have thermal issues. Well, not issues, but the thermals aren't as good as obviously these triple fan designs. So how does that compare to its nearest rival? Well, its nearest rival would be the RTX 2070 Super from NVIDIA. Now that card is about those cards are about 80, 90, 100 pounds more expensive starting off than the 5700 XT. And what does that kind of 90, 100 pounds get you? Well, to be honest, not very much. It will get you maybe 5 to 10 frames a second in some games, better if you're lucky. Some games the 5700 XT will actually beat it. So this is why I've chosen the AMD card, because basically you're saving yourself 100 quid and there's near identical performance between them. So you know, that 100 quid could pay for your RAM, or you know, or it's 100 quid off your CPU. So it's worth considering, but that would be my recommendation. Do your own research. Like I said, I'm not saying it's the best card out there. I'm just saying it's kind of the best value proposition out there for performance and versus like bang for buck, and it will play just about every game you throw at it at 1440p. You know, well over 100 frames a second. So I don't know what more you'd really want than that. Obviously, if you play at 1080p, a lot of games there will be kind of pushing kind of 150 to 200 frames a second, and in some games even more. So it's a brilliant card. Okay, up next we have storage. So looking at all the different storage options out there, there's one piece of storage that really kind of stands out from everything else. Now, as I've said before, you know, this is, you know, going to be a recommendation based on kind of the value proposition, the bang for buck. And whilst it's not the fastest, it's it's right up there. So my recommendation is the Adata XPG SX8200 Pro 1TB. My God, that's a mouthful. So why have I chosen this particular drive? Okay, yeah, there's cheaper options like standard SSD, which run at, you know, 500 meg a second read, and then you've got the brand new faster NVMe Gen 4 cards or storage, but obviously they only work with AMD boards, and yes, they are kind of faster, approaching kind of 4.5 to 5 thousand megabytes a second. Yeah, but the difference is those are twice the price, or over twice the price. So, you know, put in perspective, these new Gen 4 storage NVMe drives are well over £200, some closer to 300. And comparing this with other drives on the market, if we take the Samsung 970 Pro, that is over double the price and has pretty much near identical performance. But then when you compare kind of the Gen 2 stuff, which isn't that much difference in price, there's not that much in it at all. They're kind of running at anywhere from 1800 to about 2500 megabytes a second on the read. So this new Adata card is considerably quicker. But the best thing about it is the price. I mean, for £115 or thereabouts, or 135 US for our American friends there, it's just a fantastic value proposition, and is pretty much one of the fastest Gen 3 NVMe drives on the market. It is just blazingly fast. The other thing I recommend this for is because not everyone wants to have an AMD chip. A lot of people, if you're a gamer, you want the i9-9900, which is an Intel chip and board, so you can't even use the new Gen 4 stuff. So this would be pretty much the fastest, or one of the fastest NVMe storage drives you can get. So, you know, folks, you know, going back to this whole value for money, it is right up there, probably one of the best drives out, and that's why I recommend it. So next up, we need to take a look at cooling. So there's two options you can really look at here. One is going kind of down the classic huge big hunk of metal heatsink with two great big hulking fans attached to it, or maybe it's even one. Yeah, they're great, and a lot of these kind of high-end versions of those, which are about 70-80 quid, you know, they do the job great. But for me, having that big chunk of metal in your machine with two big fans, it kind of, for me, it makes the case look a bit messier, and the other thing is it kind of detracts away from the point of having lots of fans in your case, because it takes up a lot of room, which could be used, you know, for airflow. So it's certainly not as clean a build, and obviously not as good as, you know, airflow option for the rest of your case, because you've got to remember in there you've got your GPU as well and your general motherboard components. So for me, the recommendation I would give is to get an all-in-one cooler of some description. Now, looking at most of the coolers out there, obviously you've got lots of different sizes. You've got the kind of single fan, the double fan, and the triple fan coolers. And obviously they'll have very different size radiators attached to them based on that. So what I would recommend, and I know they're a little bit more expensive, but they will keep your high-end CPUs nice and cool, as well as being very quiet. So for me, looking at all the different models out there, they're all performing fairly similar. So any kind of 360mm radiator with a 120 fans will do a great job. They're all generally within a few degrees of each other. There's not a lot in it. But I would recommend the Corsair 150i RGB. It's around about 145 at the minute, so we may see that drop down in the Black Friday sales or the Cyber Monday sales. And the best thing about this for me is obviously it's got great RGB, it's got great control over the lights. You know, it's a good size unit, and basically Corsair make very, very good fans as well. And I think it's just a kind of better quality unit, as well as being a bit cheaper than one or two of the other options. It's not the cheapest, it's not, you know, the most expensive, it's kind of in the middle. So if you're looking for a cleaner build, you know, something neater with better airflow, then I would highly recommend this particular all-in-one cooler. You know, if you're not into that, or if you don't want to spend that much money, yeah, go for a big hunk of metal, you know, that type of cooler. But I'd recommend, if you're going down that route, getting some with Noctua fans. They tend to be, you know, very high airflow as well as being very quiet. Last but not least is your power supply. Now, a lot of people will buy cheap cases that have cheap power supplies in it, and then attach really expensive components. The amount of times I bang my head off when I see, you know, people doing this, it's just crazy. What you're going to remember is your power supply is powering everything else in your machine. So if you buy a cheap ass power supply, it's got a good chance of damaging all of your components on your machine or shortening the lifespan of them, as well as being completely inefficient and giving you a much higher electricity bill. So the first thing I would say is don't be fooled by when you see these cheap power supplies which say, oh, you know, 750 watts, 850, 1000 watts, you know. What you're looking for is the efficiency of the power supply. So I would recommend that anyone go with an 80 plus gold supply. Yes, you get the bronze and silver, but the 80 plus gold are much more efficient. So long term, it will pay you back on your electricity bills. That said, obviously there's lots of different makes and manufacturers out there, but I would always recommend sticking with a reputable, well-known make like Corsair or BeQuiet or Seasonic. Stick with any of those as long as, you know, look for a good price on them. But at the moment, I recommend the Corsair RM 750X, which is around about £100. That'll drop down in price in the kind of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If you shop around, you can get the RM 850X, which is the 850 watt version, for a little bit more, for an extra £15–20. So the question is, depends on what machine you're building. If you're sticking a big, huge, you know, RTX 2080 Ti, then yeah, you're going to need at least an 850 watt power supply. But for the recommendation today, a 750 watt will be fine, and Corsair make excellent power supplies. So, you know, you can either save yourself 15–20 quid, or you can spend a little bit extra and get the RM 850X. you know, just in case in the future you plan to get, you know, more powerful graphics cards. But bear in mind, you know, graphics cards are generally getting more and more power efficient all of the time, as are CPUs, so the load on your machine should slowly come down rather than going the other way. But yeah, I recommend the Corsair unit. Well folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it the big thumbs up. If you didn't like it, the big thumbs down is for you. Please subscribe, that will really help me out, and if you could hit that bell notification icon, that way you'll be notified when I upload any new videos. Please keep an eye out as well in the coming weeks. Hopefully I will be doing a build video of some of those components, or most of those components, based on the video we've talked about today. So hopefully we'll have you know, that build done, and obviously you guys can see the end result, and hopefully this video has been useful, and hopefully you know, maybe you'll get some use out of some of the recommendations I've made today. So once again, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys real soon. Take care now. Bye bye.